Before Together Lost was even a thing, before we ever thought about making travel videos, we took one of the most memorable trip of our lives. Back then, we were not thinking about content. We were just traveling. So this video is going to be a little different. Think of it as a travel scrapbook, a collection of memories from our very first Europe trip. And it all begins in Paris. It was September 2022. At that time, my partner was studying in Netherlands, so we thought I should visit him. After months of saving money, I was finally on my flight. I left India in the morning, and by the end of the day, we were together. We headed straight to our hotel. My partner planned everything, and I was the one following him around. He had booked us into the tallest hotel in Paris. We walked into the room, opened the curtains, and there it was, the whole Paris, right outside our window. You could even see the Eiffel Tower. So instead of sleeping, we freshened up, went up to the restaurant on the 34th floor, ordered ourselves a couple of cocktails, and we couldn't believe we are in Paris. The next morning, we woke up to one of the prettiest hotel views we have ever seen. Usually, a hotel is just where you sleep. This one became part of the memory. Like every first time visitor to Paris, our first stop had to be the Eiffel Tower. Of course, there was already a queue, but honestly, when you have dreamed about seeing something for years, waiting another hour doesn't really matter. After that, we did what we probably enjoy the most whenever we travel. We walked, watching people dance in the streets, sitting by the river Seine, just living the moment. We had booked a lunch cruise the same day. It was a unique experience. Fine dining in a cruise, and as you look out the window, you can see the scenery changing. After lunch, we boarded another cruise. This time, it was all about the city. And that's when we finally understood why Paris is called the City of Lights. Once the cruise ended, we walked back to the Eiffel Tower. Everyone was waiting, looking up, and then the lights began to sparkle. You have probably seen hundreds of videos of it online, but standing there, seeing it with your own eyes, is a completely different feeling. Next day, we had brunch at Café de Flore, one of the most iconic cafes in Paris. The desserts here were incredible. We are honestly not museum people. The main reason we wanted to visit the Louvre was because I had read Da Vinci Code years ago. Ever since then, I had always wanted to see the museum, and of course, the Mona Lisa. So, yes, that's exactly what we did. After the museum, we went to La Maison Rose, the corner pink cafe with a beautiful Paris backdrop. Then we wandered here and there, looking at the souvenir shops. And in the next chapter of our travel scrapbook, we are heading to the Netherlands. Over the next few days, we explored four very different places in the Netherlands. We spent a few days in Delft since my partner had already been living there. He even took me grocery shopping. Now I know going to a supermarket doesn't sound exciting, but the supermarkets there were huge. He cooked a few meals for me as well. And we also did a cycle excursion there. One day we took a train to the Hague. Our first stop was Madurodam. It's miniature world of all the famous spots in Netherlands. One of our favorite exhibit was this little wooden clock factory. Insert a coin, turn a wheel, and a tiny pair of wooden shoes come out. We spent way longer there than we had planned, just looking at all the little details. After Madurodam, we headed to Hague Beach. If we had to choose one favorite place in the Netherlands, this would be it, Giethoorn. It's a tiny village where cars are replaced by boats. As soon as you arrive, you rent a small boat, pick your route, and start exploring. Everything looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. The little wooden bridges, the colorful gardens, the canals, the houses. It honestly didn't feel real. We enjoyed ourselves so much that we completely forgot about time. And we missed our last bus. We ended up taking a taxi to the nearest train station. Of course, we couldn't leave the Netherlands without visiting Amsterdam. We explored the city through a canal cruise, walked around the streets, tried the famous Amsterdam fries, and visited the Heineken experience. The experience ended with us enjoying cold beers. Before I knew it, our time in the Netherlands had come to an end. But there was still one country left on a Europe trip, one that had been on my bucket list for years: Switzerland. We landed in Zurich, took another train, and finally reached Lucerne. Our hotel was right next to the lake. Next morning, we left for Mount Titlis. The journey itself was part of the experience. A train, a shuttle, one cable car, and then the famous rotating cable car. Watching 360-degree views from the cable car was something we had never experienced before. And at the top, there was so much to explore. The suspension bridge walk, the glacier cave, walking on snow, and thankfully the weather was absolutely perfect that day. One thing Switzerland does better than almost anywhere else is trains. Almost every journey felt like a sightseeing trip with huge panoramic views of the Swiss mountains, pastures, and countryside. The next day was probably our longest travel day. Multiple trains, another cable car, and finally, the famous Jungfrau railway. Just imagine reaching over 11,000 feet by train. How crazy is that? Everything was covered in clouds, but then it started snowing, and somehow that made the whole experience more magical. We explored the ice palace, walked to the glacier caves, played in the snow, and spent hours exploring everything around us. Back in Lucerne, we slowed things down and went on a cruise across the lake. Before leaving Switzerland, we had a few hours to spare, so we visited the Swiss Museum of Transport. It had everything: vintage cars, old trains, helicopters, aircraft, and so much more. My partner, he absolutely loved it, especially the vintage cars. I don't think I've ever seen him click so many pictures in one place. After that, we made our way back to Zurich, walked around the markets for a bit, did a little shopping, and before we knew it, it was time to head back to the airport. And just like that, our 2 week Europe trip came to an end. From the city of love, Paris, to seeing some of the most beautiful canals in Netherlands, and finally the breathtaking mountains of Switzerland. Every place gave us something completely different. In 2026, we still remember so much of this trip. And if there's one thing we know for sure, it's that we'll definitely be back. If you're planning your own trip to Europe, we have written a much more detailed guide on our blog. Everything from where we stayed, which passes or tickets we booked, our favorite viewpoints, and everything we would do differently today. You'll find the link in the description.